I got a little bit ahead of myself there just through sheer excitement of the fact we're going to talk about Lucy. Let's talk about it, shall we, please?
Let's talk
Robbie?
about it.
Now, yes.
This is the third Scarlett Johansson science fiction film this year, and I have to say, all three of them have been of an incredibly high standard. I absolutely love Under the Skin, which was out in March, and then her as well, the Spike Jonze film where she played this kind of sentient operating system living on Joaquin Phoenix's phone.
She wasn't the original voice for that, though, was she?
She wasn't, no, it was Samantha Morton. And then I think after the film was completed, they redubbed Samantha Morton's lines with Scarlett Johansson, which I think was possibly... I don't think it was an intended gimmick, but it was a gimmick that worked to the film's benefit because there was that slight kind of eerie disconnect between the way Phoenix's character was talking and also the OS that was talking back to him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought she was tremendous in that. I thought she was absolutely sensational in Under the Skin. Lucy, again, is very, very good, I have to say. This is the new film from Luc Besson, and it's based on this urban myth that we only use 10% of our brain's processing power. And if this other 90% could be unlocked, goodness knows what could happen. Scarlett Johansson's character, Lucy, is on holiday in Taipei. She's kind of, through a bit of a nasty piece of work, boyfriend becomes involved in a drug smuggling operation and has some experimental blue crystals stitched inside her.
Who's a brilliant actor who you might have seen in Borgen, if anybody watches Borgen.
Yes, that's right.
Awesome.
I think it's I can't remember the name of the guy, but he's in Borgen. He's also in a film called A Hijacking, which was like a kind of a Danish version of Captain Phillips. It was just terrific. So she gets this stitched up inside of her and she goes on the plane. The package punctures, and the way in which it interacts with her body suddenly unlocks this missing 90% of her brain power, and strange things start to happen. While this is going on, across in Paris, Morgan Freeman, who's playing this kind of Professor Explainington character, who is a neuroscientist giving this lecture saying, well, we don't really know what happens, all these amazing things will happen. Here is the point at which Lucy's character gets in touch with Morgan Freeman's and says, that kind of theory that you've been talking about? In practice, this is me.
Yeah.
This is the clip.
Yes?
Professor Norman, my name's Lucy. I just read all your research on the human brain. We need to meet.
All of my research? Well, I'm very flattered, young lady, but I find that hard to believe.
I read your theory on the use of the brain's capacity. It's a little rudimentary, but you're on the right track.
Thank you.
I absorbed a large quantity of synthetic CPH4 that will allow me to use 100% of my cerebral capacity. Right now I'm at 28%. And what she wrote is true. Once the brain reaches 20%, it opens up.
You can control your own metabolism?
Yes. Also, I can control magnetic and electric waves, television, telephone, radio.
That's amazing.
And that's just the start of it. Now, the concept is very like this film called Limitless that was released a few years ago by a director called Neil Berger and with Bradley Cooper from the Hangover films as the main character. A lot of people have said that Lucy sounds very, very much like a Limitless retread. Besson has said in interviews he actually came up with the idea a long time ago and the script was being written for a while. But it starts from the same point as Limitless, from this urban myth, but it runs in exactly the opposite direction. Limitless was very much a wish fulfillment fantasy about a struggling writer who takes this drug, NZT it's called in that film, and he's suddenly able to write incredibly well, and then he decides to manipulate the stock market and he races a sports car very fast. And it's very much to do with kind of satisfying that curiosity that we all have about what we could really all do if we're performing at the absolute peak of our potential. Lucy is much more science fiction minded than this, and the kind of abilities that are unlocked by this drug are things like telekinesis and as she said, manipulating telephones, television, and being able to kind of weed through the world in a new way and engage with the world in a way that is normally not available to us because our five senses, they totally limit the information that we can pick up. I absolutely love the idea that the world is actually nothing like how we experience it at all. It's an idea that's been, ticking over in physics for hundreds of years, in philosophy for even longer, that, our engagement with the world, it actually has no real relevance to how things really are. We know that because we can see all the types of visible light, but other types of electromagnetic radiation are invisible to us. Lucy not only can see all of this, but can interact with it as well. And it's a really, really fascinating idea, which I personally find more interesting than Limitless. Fun as Limitless was, it didn't really kind of engage with the idea that kind of that punchily. And Besson has said himself, this is a film of three parts. It's a very visual film. And it starts out as Leon, the Professional, which is one of Besson's earlier films, while he was still making these really snappy, almost advertising music video style action movies.
Yeah.
And before he sort of got sidetracked with things like
Does
The
have
Lady
that
and The
feel
Family.
to it.
Yeah, it's absolutely Besson
Yeah.
going back to basics. So it starts out as Leon. He's then said it progresses onto Inception, and then finally 2001: A Space Odyssey. Now these are very, very ambitious films to be invoking.
Inception, I'm not too sure about.
I don't think the analogy quite holds together, but I
Yeah.
think the fact that he's naming those films shows how ambitious he's being
Yeah.
with Lucy, and he is reaching that high. He's striving to make something that is worthy of Kubrick. It's not worthy of Kubrick, but that's how far he's reaching. I would say also for if you're a fan of Katsuhiro Otomo's anime film Akira, there's a lot of Akira in here. The Matrix as well, the Wachowskis, the first Matrix film certainly,
Yeah.
it's in there as well. Terrence Malick's The Tree of Life.
This is my main problem with it.
When the
Only
film
problem
really
with it, actually.
starts to unhook from reality at the end, it becomes quite kind of heavenly and divine without giving too much away, and then it starts to get very Malicky. There's sort of some, National Geographic animal clips
well,
as well.
the end bits I didn't worry about. It was just at the beginning, like when Morgan Freeman was given this kind of speech at the beginning, when you kind of find out, he's setting up who his character is, and then for no particular reason, there's kind of, there's images like you say of buffalo roaming the lands and all that kind of thing. It was just
And doing more than roaming the lands
yes, they
as well.
were. Yes, they were indeed. But that was the only slight niggle I had with it. But I just what I really liked about it was the whole idea of how she loses the capacity to make mistakes, but then how that then almost makes her lose a bit more of humanity every time she kind of increases that capacity, brain capacity. She becomes more almost robotic as she increases that brain capacity.
Yeah, people complain about Besson not being able to write interesting female characters. And I think what he does here is absolutely fascinating because he gives us this really rich and interesting female character and then cuts off her humanity dead basically 20 minutes into the film, and then she becomes robotic in the way that she deals with people. This is something that Scarlett Johansson is incredibly good at. She did it very well in her, kind of flipped on its head, because she was on the surface a very approachable, very friendly, very husky voiced, attractive sounding operating system. You wanted to spend time with her, but then of course as Joaquin Phoenix's character did more, you realise that humanity was just totally falling away. And then in Under the Skin, again, flip back on itself again. She's playing an alien who comes to Earth and has no kind of humanity at all. And then as she spends time here, she picks up fragments and crumbs of it here and there. So Lucy is very much weirdly of a piece with these two films. I don't think it's necessarily quite as good as either of those, but I think it's certainly, for me, the best action blockbuster movie we've had this summer. I've really, really enjoyed it. It's eccentric, it's daft, it's very fast moving.
It's that tone of the daftness of it is kind of, I think, what makes it more enjoyable as well. It's not taking itself too seriously. What made me think about as well coming out of it was going, oh, now she's just shown so many fragments of little bits of Black Widow as well in that performance, I think, in here, and showing how that character could then, be taken further in terms of spin-off of a strong female character in a Marvel world as well.
Yeah, goodness. I mean, this is a perennial problem with Marvel's films, is that they don't ever trust a female hero to take the lead in any of them.
Yeah.
And this absolutely, I think, shows that, as if there was any doubt beforehand. Of course there wasn't, but that Scarlett Johansson could easily carry a superhero film.
Do it.